You've advised practically every Republican nominee and president in my lifetime here, and you've always been a free trader and anti-tariff. So, I hear you kind of like trying to navigate not condemning this, but like so many other Republicans, including people like Marco Rubio and others in the Senate and in Congress, who are now bending themselves into pretzel shapes. I mean, it's like this sudden change that's a little hard for me to understand.
No, I mean, separate topic, but it's just amazing to me. Like, go back and see what she was saying. You could just drop a pin in the map somewhere, and whether it be Biden is super with it or sharp, or I mean, you could just pick a topic on her and talk about twisting themselves into pretzels. But let's see what he has to say.
I also look. This week, I think, has been a disaster, and part of it is because the messaging has been bad. Right. It's been all over the place, and there's been a lot of conflict within the administration, but also the policy is bad. And the math they based it on, according to mathematicians who have looked at the formula that they printed out on a big poster and put out, is wrong. They've imposed tariffs on penguins. They haven't imposed tariffs on Russia. I mean, it has made absolutely no sense. And when you hear people who love Donald Trump, supported Donald Trump, gave him money, people like Ken Langone, Home Depot, people like Bill Ackman, people who have gone, gotten into fights for months.
Can we correct the Russian thing? Because Scott, we're not trading with Russia. They have sanctions.
We do $3.5 billion.
We have sanctions on Russia.
Yeah, but I know
North Korea.
The number is not zero. What we do with Russia, the number is zero on the island with the penguin.
Yeah, we trade more with Russia than we do with Herd and McDonald's.
Isn't the issue with the islands is that China can use those small countries as a possible
the island doesn't have any humans on it.
Also, these penguins, they dress like elitists. They had it coming. I just want to point out.
I mean, I don't think.
I'm just saying.
Well, I don't think
the Russian thing's been
I don't think that you throw zero tariffs on Russia and then massive tariffs on other countries that are basically doing almost no trade with the United States.
I think that there is something to what you say. I don't think this has been handled that well, and you're right. The markets have reacted pretty ferociously against this. But I will say this.
And the math has been erroneous. The mathematical formula.
Scott made an important point just a few minutes ago. This is the new Republican Party, whether you like it or not. I mean, Trump won because he won blue-collar union voters, and he and the Republicans view that as the base of the party now. And it's different. It's different than when Reagan won, where it was mostly wealthy people. Now the wealthy people vote Democratic, and middle-class people are generally voting Republican. And so this is a policy position that's actually fairly popular with Americans. You're right. I'm a free trader.
I'm sorry, Steve. Which part do you think is popular? Because I don't think that's true.
Well, let me just say this. Even though Trump knows I'm a free trade guy, and he knows that I oftentimes oppose these policies, he still calls on me. He likes to get different opinions from different people. And in the end of the day, I'm going to predict, this has been a rough period, no question, but Trump is a winner. He's a master negotiator. I think at the end of the day, you're going to have these countries calling him up on the phone, one by one, and making a deal with them. It's going to be good for
what's going to happen to the U.S. economy in the meantime, Chairman?
Stephen made the point talking about working class voters, and now the Republican Party is more multiracial and working class compared to years before. And when you look at it from the perspective of people in the Rust Belt, what have they seen since the early 90s as a result of free trade? 5 million jobs over 2 decades eliminated. 90 good-paying manufacturing jobs, by the way. 90,000 factories closed. That's an estimate. Then you move forward to the early 2000s, increased imports with China, known as the China shock. You're aware of this, Stephen. You've written about it. That also eliminated 2 million additional jobs. So you're talking about over 2.5 decades, about 7 to 10 million jobs eliminated, good-paying jobs for blue-collar people. They completely feel ignored. They completely feel forgotten. And so Donald Trump focusing on trying to level set, to your point, and bring back some level of manufacturing, even if it's modernized, not going back to the 80s or 90s, I think is a good thing.
Even if it's robots?
It could potentially benefit those working class
even
people.
if it's robots? I mean, if it's robots doing these jobs, then what's the point?
Abby, chip manufacturing, you got to bring some of that back to the United States.
I know,
we're not at a place where machines can repair themselves when they're damaged. You need to have a skilled workforce being able to take care of those things.
But do you understand my point,
No,
Mr.
I don't understand your point.
Is that we are increasingly about to be in an economy where a lot of these jobs that he wants to bring back are not going to be done by humans. Maybe there will be one or two overseeing the robots, but they've acknowledged that. Besant and Howard Lutnick have both said that over the last few days. Automation, AI, robots are going to replace most humans in those jobs. So what is the formula from manufacturing renaissance in that scenario?
Sure. That's a global issue. That's not just an issue that the United States singularly has to face. And I would say at some point we probably need to start preparing our workforce to be prepared for a modernized world. We haven't done that in 2 or 3 decades.
I guess the question is,
how does conversations about returning some jobs to people while we still can, I think is a positive thing.
I think that's fine. But that obviates what we're not.
It's amazing they're not letting the fucking economists talk about this stuff. So this is a very complicated issue. And that's ultimately the problem. The problem is that it's complicated. Much like him, much like Friedman, much like a lot of the guys on the libertarian economic side, I would be classified as a free trade person. However, the problem with free trade up until this point is that nobody else is doing it. If you're the only one that's doing it, it's not very free. So what do you have to do? You have to leverage yourself. And Trump has massive amount of leverage right now, a massive amount. We all knew the media apparatus was going to pivot and come down. We all knew the markets were going to tank. We all knew that. Who ultimately that's hurting? I don't think that's hurting a lot of middle class people. Not yet, right? Because by the time the expensive products are shipped over here, hopefully a lot of this headache has been kind of resolved. So the people that have obviously 401ks are going to be panicking, but the people that are heavily invested in the market, the people with a lot of fucking money, people with a lot of money, right? They're going to be the ones that are panicking right now. They're going to be the ones that are actually, they believe they're hurt, right? You're not really hurt until you sell your stock, right? So you're hurt on paper. That, most Americans, don't give a shit right now about paper. They want to know the next job opportunity they're going to have. They want to know the prices that things are going to be, going forward. And this is a long game. For once, we have to play the long game. China plays the long game, right? So he puts a tariff on them. They put a tariff back, and they're just they're doing tit for tat, right? The issue with the tit for tat is just like a lot of people here are panicking. What do you think is happening in China right now? What do you think is happening in China right now? When they sell to us 4 times what we sell to them, right? They sell to us close to $500 billion of stuff, right? When we're buying, I think $100 and something billion of stuff off of them, right? So that tariff, what's more of an impact, right? 101% tariff on $100 billion worth of stuff, or 104% billion tariff on $500 billion worth of stuff, right? The manufacturers in China, I guarantee you, are losing their shit right now, way more than the U.S. economy. They have to be losing their shit because that $500 billion is not going to get sold to us. You guys have to stop and think about what the hell's going on. You have to stop and think about this game of chicken that's happening right now, right? Trump and China are playing a game of chicken. The difference is Trump is in a Mack truck and China is in a Pinto, right? We're barreling towards each other. We're both can get fucked up. That's without saying. But who's going to take the brunt of it? China, without a doubt, is going to take the brunt of this, right? They have, the companies and the manufacturing and all that stuff over there. If this stuff gets imposed, we shut it down. Nobody buys shit from them anymore. Are we gonna? There's gonna be a lot of fluctuations and all of the angst and the pain and the anxiety that we're going through. They're gonna be going through 4 times as much, right? You guys have to understand that. That's where the rationale has to come in. You have to start rationalizing this. Okay, if we're experiencing all this problem and the issue that we're having is our $100 billion worth of stuff. They have $400+ billion worth of stuff that they want to send to us. And that's not going to come this way. What does that mean? They're out of work. They're out of luck. They're shit out of luck. Who's going to buy that stuff? Nobody. There's no way to offset that amount. There's no way. It's not possible. I'm going to let this finish out and see what else I have to say. But that's ultimately what you have to understand is that it's a game of chicken, right? Somebody's going to pull off to the side. We're not going to pull off to the side. It's not going to happen. We have the goods. We are the main consumer of that economy, right? They need us way more than we need them. And the other reason why I think is absolutely necessary, excuse me, I do not mind in the slightest bit if manufacturing or tariffing. Again, I'm not for protectionist tariffs. I don't like it. However, if we don't produce our own medicines here, that's a problem, right? There may be room for some type of tariff or protectionist tariff that allows U.S. manufacturing of things that we really need to stay functional as an independent nation, to at least have some industry here. We can't offshore everything when it comes to medication, when it comes to steel, when it comes to obviously food, right? That industry, when it comes to chip manufacturing, right? Because a lot of that goes into weapon systems and things of that nature. There has to be cutouts. There has to be room in our economy where those things can get a foothold and flourish at least a little bit, right? And I'm not saying that we can't buy things from overseas and stuff like that when it comes to medication, stuff like that. But we have to have some industry here where, in the event that something goes wrong, that could get ramped up. Right now, we can't ramp it up because it doesn't exist, and that's a big problem. It's a big problem, right? I'm actually going to go to. I think I'm going to do it in the next video. But let's finish this out and see where they end this argument.
Talking about is the
guys, please subscribe, give me a like, give me a share. Thank you so much.
Incredible pain that is going to be felt precisely by the blue collar people, right? Who are going to go to the grocery store, because we're focusing on the markets and we're focusing on Stephen Portnoy having lost $20 million and the billions of dollars that Jeff Bezos has lost and Elon Musk and all of that. The thing is, these rich people can say don't panic and don't sell because they've got more millions that they can live off. But the person who's going to go buy the car or the person who's buying clothes.
All right, what are they showing here? It's important. And this is, CNN's, the price increase. Christmas ornaments, candles, cashews, golf clubs, furniture, seafood, clothing, toilets, toys, and electronics. All right, I'm not seeing anything that's gonna, it kind of sucks that, you guys have to pay more for some electronics or toys or whatever, and clothing. Okay. I'm not seeing anything that's like, somebody that's like super poor on welfare or whatever, where, I'm not seeing it. You know what just went down? They're not talking about oil prices. Oil prices just went down. So I have oil heating in my home, and a lot of people do, especially in the Northeast where I am. Why don't you talk about that? The fact that just dropped about $20 a barrel, I think, if I'm not mistaken. That's a huge impact, right? But they're not going to talk about that.
Clothing from China, or the person who's going to the grocery store and buying the bananas from Ecuador and the avocados from Mexico and the limes from Mexico, they're going to see that price increase tomorrow.
Let me just play. Hang on a second.
Do you understand that there are people in this country who
second.
cannot endure short-term pain?
Of course, but you know what? Let me just go through a couple points. In 1987, we talked about the S&P falling 10%. We've only seen this 4 times. In 1987, it occurred. We saw a bounce back of 102%. November 2008, a bounce back of 105%. In 2020, a bounce back of 94%. It recovers, and it recovers stronger than it was before. That is absolutely
sure, Michael. In none of those cases that you just cited is it a man-made crisis. This is created by one.
What? I mean, first of all, they were all man-made. All right, even down to COVID. Whatever the hell you think about that, go after yourself. 2008, the like mortgage-backed securities. Like, okay, that's another complicated topic, but not man-made. What are you talking about?
Person, Donald Trump. This isn't COVID. This isn't a financial bubble. This is all manufactured, created, drummed up by this insane man who is our president. And yes.
Oh man, you know what? That kind of pisses me off. Just to let freaking
come up on the phone.
Navarro, whatever the hell her name is, just rants like that. Ugh, it's gross. All right. Yeah, we're gonna have to tackle this some more. And the reason why we have to get on this is because it's complicated, right? Everyone needs to start understanding it. Everyone needs to wrap this around their heads and get what's going on. Next video I'm going to do, it'll be up there. It'll be, more about tariffs. I know it's a little bit boring, but we have to hit it because people need to understand it. Guys, thanks a lot for coming out. Give me a like, give me a share, give me a subscribe. We'll see you again on the next video. Thanks a lot.